You ready to start?
We have all members present, so yes. It's 10:01.
Awesome. So Chair Vasquez, it is all you.
I'd like to call this meeting to order at 10:01 or 02?
01 still.
01, hey. All right, roll call, please.
Thank you. City of Flagstaff, Lori Matthews.
Here.
Coconino County, Geronimo Vasquez.
Present.
Thank you. City of Flagstaff, Miranda Sweet here. Thank you. NAU, Josh Mann.
Here.
Thank you. CCC, Tony Williams.
Here.
Thank you. We have a guest with us, Tiffany Antal from the City of Flagstaff. She's the zoning code manager. And we have Scott Holcomb, our attorney, on the line. And
Good morning.
we have an alternate board member, Judy McGay, with us. And staff are in the gear room and on Zoom. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is our safety minute. Sam Short.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board. May 1st is just 15 days away, and May is National Bike Month. So this year we wanted to get a head start on promoting bicycle safety, because cycling is very prominent in our community. According to the National Safety Council, here are some tips for the road that can help you have a safer bicycling experience. Follow the law. Your safety depends on you. You have the same rights and responsibilities as drivers. Obey traffic signals and stop signs. Ride with traffic. Use the rightmost lane headed in the direction you are going. Be predictable. Make your intentions clear to everyone on the road. Ride in a straight line and do not swerve between cars. Signal turns and check behind you before you turn while changing lanes. Be conspicuous. Ride where people can see you and wear bright colored clothing. Use a front white light, red rear light, and reflectors when visibility is poor. Make eye contact with others and do not ride on the sidewalks. Check that your tires are sufficiently inflated, brakes are working, chains run smoothly, and quick release levers are closed. Carry tools and supplies that are appropriate for your ride. Always wear a helmet. For more information on bicycling statistics or safety, you can contact National Safety Council at www.nsc.org. Thank you and welcome to the April Board meeting.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, next up, milestone anniversaries, Heather Donnelly.
Great, thank you. Next slide. That's okay. So we really have one milestone anniversary to share today. On the screen, you can see Christian Blair celebrating his first year at Mountain Line. Christian came to us very interested in our CDL and transit operator position, but only had 2 months with a driver's license. So he's actually been serving as an ambassador on our platform while he earned the experience necessary to acquire his CDL. He is now in our training program and recently passed his test to get his CDL license. So we are very excited to see Christian move into a position and really very grateful for the work he's done. He really designed and built our ambassador program. It was the first time we had someone sitting in that role, and now it is part of our org structure, and we plan to keep 2 people in that position performing ambassador and customer service duties on the platform. But congratulations to Christian on his first anniversary with Mountain Line, and certainly look forward to many more years.
Okay, congratulations. All right, next up, call to the public. Are there any members of the public present that wish to speak? Or are there any written comments received via email for the board?
We have one written comment, but it is regarding the fare-free transit item. So if we can hold that until that item on the agenda. There were no other written comments provided, and no one asked for the online link, so we're good.
Okay, all right, we'll move on and we'll address that when we get there. Next up is approval of minutes. Are there any changes to either the minutes recommended? For the regular meeting 3/19/25 and the special meeting 3/25/25. Okay, in that case, can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I move that we approve the minutes.
Okay, we have a motion by Director Sweet. Do I have a
I'll
second?
second.
Second by Director Matthews. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Next up, we're on the consent agenda item. Let's see. Are there any consent agenda items that need to be pulled for discussion? Okay, then in that case, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So move.
Okay, we have a motion by Director Brigade. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Actually,
Yeah,
she's your alternate.
my
so-
alternate, so she
yeah.
can't do the motion. Okay,
Yeah, sorry.
sorry, Chair Brigade.
Okay, I know. I just remembered. Okay.
Would like to make a motion for the consent agenda.
So moved.
All right, thank you. We have a motion by Director Williams and a second by Director Sweet. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, please indicate by saying nay. Okay, motion passes unanimously. All right, next up, number 8, land availability and site suitability study code analysis project. Please, come up, Ms. Busy Collins.
So Tiffany's gonna start us off, but then I'll be second.
Okay.
Hi, Tiffany Antal, zoning code manager for the city of Flagstaff. Thank you so much for allowing us to be here today, and if you are hearing this for the second, third, fifth, 100th time, that's great for us. That's the goal. Today, I just have a real brief introduction to the presentation.
There is a clicker right there, and it's the big button to forward, the little button below to go back.
Love it.
And then if you want to highlight something, it's the top button.
Okay, that might be too complicated for me. I appreciate it. But I have a quick couple of slides, just real high level. We want to invite you into this project, which is called the Land Availability and Site Suitability, as well as the Code Analysis Project. For the most part, we are through the vast majority of work on that land availability and site suitability project, which definitely looked at sort of a large area or larger region in terms of what land we have available in terms of housing and other development. But this entire project is focused on achieving our both our 10-year housing and our carbon neutrality goals. So one, just like to start out the meeting and sort of reinvigorating the conversation on what these goals are. They're big goals, they're meaningful goals. And we really do believe that at the end of the day, we're going to be able to start digging into and achieving most of these goals. You know, first up in terms of the 10-year housing, we're still looking to impact at least 6,000 low to moderate income folks through a combination of unit creation and subsidy provision. We do already have affordable housing incentives built into our code. And we are looking at how we might be able to increase that, to increase those, that unit creation. We are also looking to preserve or create an additional 8,000 housing units by 2031. If you want details on how these goals are being met, I don't have all of the facts and figures in my head, but our housing division keeps a great website. And they are tracking year by year how progress is being made on each one of these goals. So I highly suggest, if this is something you're interested in and seeing how many units we're achieving year by year, you can check out those statistics on our housing section's website. I'm always impressed with their work. Next up comes carbon neutrality, an easy goal of achieving carbon neutrality by 2030. But the great thing here is, and I believe our sustainability division was just at City Council giving an update on this plan. So also, if you're interested in how we're achieving these goals and policies, you know, really recent update on what it looks like. But again, we're also trying to prepare our community to be more resilient, and we're also trying to work through and make sure that we are equally distributing our mitigation measures. So I did talk about the land availability and site suitability study just a little bit, but it really is examining the suitability of the available land to determine our opportunities and barriers to housing development. So Flagstaff is not really, it's landlocked to a degree. We are surrounded by Coconino County and other developable lands within the county. We also have a large amount of public lands that surround us as well. But of those land areas that we know are available, understanding what the barriers are helps us dig into what this next phase is of the project, which is where we are today, which is that code analysis project. This code analysis project is intended to evaluate the development codes and processes to see where we need to make improvements to further both our housing and climate goals. The code analysis is not specific to the zoning code. Zoning code, I think, gets most of the abuse. She's the prettiest code of all of the codes. I'm just kidding. But to start this project, we started with a code diagnostic report. We wanted to go out and find out what are the barriers in our code? What is the perceived obstacles from developers, from local engineers, from people utilizing the code on a regular basis? In response to those barriers, we are now at code concepts where there are lots of different ways in which we can change our codes in order to overcome those obstacles or barriers. We can work more with our incentives. We can work more to allow density by right. We can reduce other standards in our code, possibly parking, for example, to make housing feasible. So this code diagnostic or this code concepts report is really pulling and pushing on the levers of the different codes that we have in a way that we can strategically move forward and try to accomplish the goals. There is no one perfect way to accomplish a goal. The code concepts report does look at the project in terms of 3 different scenarios. At the end of the day, we're not held or tied to any one scenario. It's just easier to group the conversation into those scenarios. At the end of the day, we may end up with a whole different direction of, in this situation, we'll be working on incentives, and on this situation, we'll be working to increase by right production of housing, for example. Once we get our final direction on code concepts and where the community is feeling comfortable with us moving in those directions, we will have a final code recommendations report. And from there, we will be drafting code updates and amendments. So the important thing to understand about the code analysis project is they are suggestions, they are ideas that will help us at the end run get to future code amendments. But those code amendments still have to go through the same standard public outreach and public hearing process as any other code amendment does today. So where can you find more information? I've tried to sort of entice you with some ideas of where we may be going in terms of these code concepts, but we invite you to visit our website. The code diagnostic report is available on the website, as well as the draft code concepts plan. It's worth a quick review. Also, we're available for more in-depth conversations if you're interested. We do have some future public outreach. We've got an upcoming council work session, sort of tentative, and a town hall. I mean, we're not calling it a town hall. We're gonna call it a community conversation. Much more friendly terminology, but we're trying to engage the public in a way, because every time there's always a pro and con to every potential strategy that we may take moving forward. And we want to make sure that we're moving forward in a way where we're accepting and evaluating and understanding how that moves us forward and what may need additional work in the future. We are going to continue to do public outreach throughout this overall process. Like I said, even with that formal recommendations, we're still gonna need to prepare and adopt the code amendments, which I expect there to be ongoing community conversations about all of these things for years. But we'd like to get a good sense of where people are comfortable so that we can head our consultant in the best possible direction, and be as efficient as possible. To learn more about all of the details of the code concepts, if you don't wanna read a very long document, I totally understand. Very detailed presentations were given to both our Housing Commission and our Sustainability Commission. And those commissions and their feedback and their questions are also very enlightening along the way. So we would invite you to go and watch those meetings. If you're not really interested on reading the draft report itself, please feel comfortable to send us your questions in writing. And again, we're here. If you have groups you want us to come and present with, if you want us to sit down and walk you through the document, we're here and ready to do that. This is your group working on this project. This is our contact information. We're sort of the core group working through this, and we represent community development, planning and development services. We represent housing, we represent sustainability, and we also represent Mountain Line. And with that, I will hand it over to Busy so she can tell you about the next phase of this project.
And we will have time for questions after this. And Tiffany will come back up, so please hold your questions just for a couple more minutes. Transit-related codes assessment was included as part of the last cap. So we're using the same consultants that the city is using. It was finalized in December. We have a full report. It is 54 pages, so it wasn't included as an attachment. But I'd be happy to send it to you after the meeting if you're interested. So the code diagnostic report showed that improving transit access in Flagstaff is central to achieving housing and carbon neutrality goals. Today I'm talking about key outcomes and considerations. And just like Tiffany said, phase 2 is really the code recommendations, integrating that in, public review, the policy review, et cetera, all of that process. So we're really just saying high level, what are the barriers to transit in code? So that's what I'm going to present today. So this is the first public presentation of this topic of the transit specific item. After this will be after Mountain Line, Tiffany and I are going to co-present at the Metro Plan Tacking Board, the Transportation Commission, and then that community conversation in June. So I welcome any feedback. If I should adapt this message at all, this is a great time for you to let me know that. Okay, so there's 3 parts here of the assessment and recommendations. I'm not going to touch on the bullets. You can read them here. I'm just going to say in layman terms what they're meaning. So the first 2 bullets, we're really just talking about direct pedestrian and bicycle access from main corridors where transit operates. Most transit trips begin on foot or on bicycle. So we just need people to be able to access their homes, their jobs to the main corridors. Don't make people walk through long and dangerous parking lots. Avoid cul-de-sacs and circuitous neighborhood road networks that increase distance to access transit operating on main corridors. The next 2 bullets, we're asking for higher density housing and access to transit that both contribute to overall affordability of houses in Flagstaff, and corridor-based density where transit operates today makes transit the easy choice for Flagstaff citizens. And then the last 2 bullets, the sooner that transit can be included in conversation, the more impact we can have towards achieving Flagstaff housing and sustainability goals. And integrating transit with code means more predictability for developers on transit expectations and costs. We don't want to negotiate from the dais. We're really just looking to be integrated into that conversation early and all the way through the development process. The second major point, sustainable transportation networks in neighborhoods. We're just trying, again, to get it right from the start. Transit's the easy choice on that first bullet. The traffic impact analysis. So just high level, every time there's a development, there's a traffic impact analysis. Currently, the city only considers vehicle traffic. So single occupancy cars, right? Not transit. Transit's not included in that. Let me say it that way. If we were hoping to get transit included in that traffic impact analysis, And in that way, we can increase the road capacity, hopefully help developers reduce their TIA costs as a result of that analysis. And again, just be part of the expectations from the beginning of that development, increasing the predictability. And again, all costs will be impacted, all cost impacts will be analyzed in phase 2 of the last cap. That'll refine the code. So all of this is going through public review. We're not at exactly the cost impacts yet. That's coming in phase 2. Incentivizing purchase of bulk transit passes. So just putting a free pass in people's hands, 13.5% of people who have never ridden Mountain Line say they would ride if they just had a free pass in their hand. So again, just trying to make transit the easy choice, some of this low-hanging fruit. And then private funding of transit operations. We're always open to partnerships to provide more transit to areas that need it. A great example of that is Mountain Express. All Mountain Express service is paid for by Snowball. That's a great partnership to highlight. We would love more partnerships like that to provide more service around the community. And then electric mobility. Mountain Line has electric buses. We have on-route charging planned. And so just trying to make that more predictable and transparent in that process towards zero emission. And so those are all the slides I have. Tiffany and I would welcome any questions that you may have.
Are there any questions? No, please continue.
I think that's it for our presentation. Yep.
Are there any questions or comments regarding this item? No. Well, thank you for the presentation. I look forward to seeing how we make sure that transit is taken into consideration with our future developments.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
I will say this is a big, I think, improvement to when I first got on the council. I feel like transit wasn't in the conversation, and it's really nice to see that it is highlighted. So thank you for that.
All right, thank you. Next up is July 2025 service charges, changes. Jackie Lerner.
On the floor as a cat.
Good morning, everybody. Can everybody hear me okay? I'm doing this from the Arizona Transit Association conference, so I tried to find the most quiet spot that I could. So I'm going to try and make this as quick as possible in respect for our packed agenda here. So the board opened a public comment period for our proposed, we said August, we actually mean July, it's the very end of July, service changes. Back in April, back in February, and we are now asking you to consider closing that public comment period and approving the service changes. Next slide, please. Just a recap of everything that we did to promote these and we actually did get a pretty robust amount of feedback on these service changes. Next slide, please. Thank you. So I will quickly go through. I believe that you should have all of the comments that we received, so you could review those if you would like. They were generally positive about the proposed service changes. The only constructive ones we got were on the one in front of you right now, and this is related to how we serve the Mesa. I went through this in pretty in depth the last time we met, so I don't want to go too much in depth on this one. We did have two basis parents. I actually think it was a mother and father of the same child, who made comments about this proposed service change and how it would impact their students' ability to ride the bus after school. We made the decision, our recommendation, based on the ridership that we're experiencing, on the low ridership that we experience on this route, plus the fact that it gets so far behind making that deviation that we're now impacting other riders, especially our FUSD students, as this route also goes by most of the FUSD schools that we serve. So we're often causing them to miss connections. My proposal here is that I will definitely reach out to those parents to talk about the options. There are it will require a little bit more of a walk, but it is within about a 3/4 of a mile walk shed to get to the closest regular stop. So we'll definitely talk to the parents about that. So I wanted to pause there to see, this is I would say, I don't think any of these are controversial, but if there is one, it would be this one. So I want to pause and see if there's any questions on this one.
I have a question. So the students from base, they have to go west on Forest. They would have to walk down to the bus stop 25 rather than get picked up right there in front of the school.
That is correct. Or they could walk to 24, which is like at the entrance to Buffalo Park, depending on it's uphill, downhill. I think it depends if they're coming to school or leaving school, what kind of hill situation they want.
And could they potentially get picked up at basis, get dropped off at exit 7 or bus stop 7 and then walk across to 24? Is that another option?
So yes, and we will go over all of that with these parents and also with any outreach we do to Basis and now FJA, which will also be located adjacent to Basis at the start of the school year.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, please
All right.
continue.
Thank you. Next slide, please. I'm not going to dwell too much on this one. We actually received absolutely no comments on this proposed service change of moving routes 4 and 14 over to use the new roundabout. So I believe that we are good to move forward with that one. Next slide, please. Turns out the people out on the Route 5 corridor are very excited about having 30-minute service instead of 60-minute service. We received lots of positive comments about this proposed service change. To the best of my knowledge, did not receive any negative comments about it. So the those who live out in this corridor are very excited about having better transit service and want even more. We have lots more requests for later night service and all of the other things that will be coming later in our Proposition 488 delivery. Next slide, please. This is one where we are actually changing our strategy with this one. We had proposed moving this bus stop 16 on 4th Street on Route 7 just a little bit south to get out of the way of the roundabout, but we have had some subsequent meetings with the City of Flagstaff team and talking about the actual design of the roundabout, and our safety team, our operations team agreed that we do not need to move this stop. It will be safe for us to use the existing stop when we will not be in the way of traffic exiting that roundabout. There is potential in the future. We've talked about 4th Street quite a bit, 4th Street from top to bottom and how we serve it. So there is potential for stops to move in the future along 4th Street and stops to be added, of course. And so we like the idea of leaving it where it is for now and not making a move that we may have to change in a couple of years when information gives us something else. So our proposal is to leave this stop where it is, and I'm thankful to the city that they've worked with us on a safe way to serve the existing stop. Next slide, please.
Question on 16. Sorry, it's all in my district.
Yes. That's okay.
With 16, will that bus stop get upgraded? Because right now, if my memory serves, it's just a sign. Will that get anything else? Sign?
It is correct. Based on where it is in the right of way, there is not a current plan to do anything but a sign. We will actually not be serving that stop for during the construction of the roundabout. We'll have to detour away from it, so it's a little bit confusing. We'll actually have to move the stop for a little bit this summer while that construction of that roundabout happens. But we are, we do have the ongoing conversation about bus stops and improving the situation at our bus stops, especially in this corridor. So I think that's going to be a future. I think we're going to discuss that at our joint meeting next month, talking about some of these potential bus stop upgrades. But there is nothing without getting an easement. There is not anything that we can currently do within the footprint that we have at that existing stop. And there would not be anything that we could do in the footprint if we moved it as well. It would be, as I think you know, in your district, that it's a little tight in there.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, next slide, please. Okay, the most exciting one, Route 8. This is the one that will check that box of Prop 488 for service to new areas. Also received overwhelmingly positive feedback on this one from people who live out in that pink area, which would be served with new transit service out West Route 66. A lot of excitement about it, a lot of pent up demand for it. A lot of, will you come further, which was really excited me because we had a couple employees who work at the city public works yard who would like us to go a little bit further out and so they could use the service, which we'd love to hear that. And we do have future plans to extend beyond and further serve like the Habitat for Humanity homes and things along those lines. We are in the process of working with ADOT on these bus stop applications on West Route 66, and we are they have indicated historically that they are willing to allow us to do what we're calling temporary stops before there are improvements to West Route 66, which are coming sometime in the next decade. And we are working through some challenges with that right now. Safety is the biggest concern. Obviously, we all know this road is the speed limit and is 45 miles an hour. There are no crosswalks, there are no stoplights, there are very few sidewalks. We had anticipated that we will have very strong messaging for about riding around. So instead of crossing West Route 66, this is a fairly short route out here. It would take someone an estimated 5 extra minutes to ride around as opposed to crossing the street to get on or off the bus. So that will be a significant part of our messaging and safety messaging around this. So we continue to work with ADOT on hopefully resolving some of their concerns related to these bus stops. But as far as the public comment goes, it was overwhelmingly positive, and we did not have anything negative on this one. Next slide, please. So that is the end of my presentation about all of the proposed service changes. I'm happy to answer any questions, further questions that you have about it. And we are looking for action to close that public comment period and then approve these proposed service enhancements.
All right, are there any questions or comments at this time by board members? No? Okay.
It's exciting to see.
All right, pretty fair. Straightforward. In that case, is there a motion to approve the staff recommendations?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion by Director Williams. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Director Sweet. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Motion passes unanimously. Well, congratulations, and I look forward to seeing the changes in July.
Me too.
All right, next item, number 10, FY 2026 capital budget. Josh Stone, please.
Good morning, everyone. Josh Stone, Mountain Line Financial Manager here. So we're going to take a look at the fiscal year 2026 capital budget. Today is the third month in the budget series. Looking forward to 2026 and hopefully adoption of the budget in June. Next slide, please. For 2026, the budget for all projects in our capital improvement plan is right at about $46 million. Of these projects, 38 million was already budgeted and approved in the current fiscal year. For projects that are already underway and have not reached their conclusion. So that 38 million is carrying forward into the fiscal year 2026 budget, leaving us with about $8 million in new proposed spending on capital projects. And let me just back up and also say that Mountain Line's capital improvement needs are developed by a committee that meets at various points throughout the year to identify and evaluate all of our needs based on supporting our transit programs. And then, we look at what funding and resources we have available to us and evaluate the staff capacity and feasibility of implementing these items within a reasonable timeline. Next slide, please. We'll move into the projects. So First Mile, Last Mile is a federal award that Mountain Line received to implement mobility or accessibility infrastructure throughout the city. The grant funds are Mountain Line's, but the City of Flagstaff is coordinating most of the project management and identifying where the projects will be of most use in the city. The 20% local city match there is not being paid for out of transit tax funds. That's being paid for by the city directly out of other transportation funding that they have. Next slide, please. The Downtown Connection Center, phase 1, which is the building, that's under construction right now will be completed. And we'll be able to move in just over a month. So the current fiscal year, that part of the project will be coming to a close. Once the administrative building is completed, other infrastructure improvements to the east of the building need to occur. The city at some point will be undertaking drainage work for the Rio de Flag channel that flows through the site, and Mountain Line's bus routing and parking operations need to be reconfigured to accommodate that eventual construction when that occurs. So that is a little bit of a reconfiguration of the site outside of the admin building. Next slide, please, is the Caspar maintenance facility. Once the administrative staff and customer service functions move to the Downtown Connection Center, the current Caspar administrative building will be redeveloped and expanded into a more sort of modern and appropriately sized maintenance facility for our transit service vehicles. Currently, our maintenance space is undersized and requires our longer vehicles to be partially in and partially out of the building while they're being serviced, which can be a bit of a safety and comfort hazard for our mechanics. So we're expanding the current building and making it more appropriate for maintenance of those vehicles. Next slide, please, is for replacement buses. This photo is not the best. It's an electric bus, but we did order hybrid models. You all, as the board, I believe, had a robust discussion about these vehicles that needed to be ordered last month. We did order hybrid models to avoid any problems with obligating the federal funding, to avoid any possible extra scrutiny that might be taking place right now. And those 4 diesel electric hybrid buses should be delivered sometime late next year. Next slide, please. The first of a number of different bus stop projects. Mountain Line annually evaluates all bus stop furniture assets for a state of good repair and selects several bus stops that are in need of painting and glass replacement and rust repair, just general refurbishment to keep them in a safe and attractive state waiting place for our passengers. So that is this one. The next slide, please, is the city's Beulah Boulevard and University extension, and its roundabout are just about almost complete this summer. If you have driven through here, Mountain Line has some dedicated driving lanes, and there are a couple of new pads that are awaiting new bus stops to be completed there. Next slide, please. Jackie just talked about the extension of service of Route 8 out west Route 66 to the Presidio and Timber Sky and Railroad Springs neighborhoods. So we need some new bus stops along the adjacent neighborhoods to allow passengers to safely use the extension and board the buses. Next slide, please, is kind of what we call opportunity bus stop improvements that are coordinated with various new developments in town. This photo is an example of a partnership from the past where we installed a bus stop at a high density student housing, the Standard building on Route 66. Developers are already usually installing sidewalks and other infrastructure for new developments. So we're able to save a little bit of cost on our side if we can provide them with our stop placement, and they can pour all the concrete and some of the space is made available at the same time. Next slide, please. Some or maybe all of you on the board may remember there was an activity at our annual strategic advance meeting last year where various bus stops around town were evaluated and ranked for possible safety and accessibility upgrades, and also some maybe some fill-in stops where there might be longer than normal gaps in the route network. So Mountain Line has submitted an earmark request or a congressionally directed spending request to complete a number of these projects to make it easier and more pleasant to travel around town by our passengers. We don't know at this time if we'll be awarded any funds. Because we've had success with that in the past, so hopefully we will. So at this time, this is just a sort of placeholder budget for planning purposes. And then next slide is the last item. On the administrative side, we have a few projects in the works. We've outgrown the capabilities of our fare collection vendor and need to look at a more modern and appropriate system for our current needs. So we'll be upgrading our fare collection system. And then we also have need for more appropriate capital asset and inventory management system so we can keep track and take good care of our items that we paid for. So that is all of the items that are included in the $46 million proposed capital budget for next year. And I know that was brief and we just kind of flew through them, but if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Are there any questions on the capital budget? No? All right, well, thank you for the presentation. Appreciate it. All right, next up, item 11, free fare transit update, Ms. Heather Dahmer.
Great, thank you. So this is being brought back at the request of board members. So I prepared for you, and in your packet is a staff report that really provides the history of this conversation around free fare. I've tried to update it just based on some things that have changed. For example, at the time that we first started this conversation, our fares were about $530,000. We're currently at $800,000. That fare revenue is growing as ridership does return to our system, continues to grow within our system. But I just tried to capture all of the different places that we have already talked about free fare, and then provide for you some conclusions that we have made as staff. But I also want to share, it's really important to share that one of the measures when we decided not to ask for transit tax to replace the fare revenue, when we decided not to move forward with free fare, staff were directed to go ahead and expand our reduced fare program as a measure of creating a more accessible transit system. And so we have currently offered and changed our reduced fare program to accommodate veterans. So we worked with the Arizona Veterans Home to really identify how could we qualify someone. And based on their feedback, we have now added the DD 214 form that is available to anyone discharged from the military, any branch of the military, to qualify for that system. So really they can bring that into our office with their application and receive a reduced fare card, which allows them to either use passes or pay cash on the bus with the reduced fare program. That was the first thing that we did do It was pretty simple and straightforward. We don't really want to ask drivers to be looking at DD 214s on the vehicle. We think it's really important that those come into our office to qualify them. Additionally, we are ready to accept all forms of issued military identification cards. They are issued by the Department of Defense. We're working on a training program for our staff now because those will be validated by a driver on a vehicle in the same way that a school ID is currently validated or a driver's license. And so that will give active military members access to the reduced fare program as well. The third piece of the reduced fare program that we are still working on is qualifying individuals living in low income status. We have met at least one time with Coconino County, the community services team there on how we might identify those that would qualify for low income. Mountain Line does not really want to manage whether someone qualifies for low income. We really want to give access to reduced fare to anyone that is already qualified for a variety of low income programs. And so in conversation with staff at King Street in the Health and Human Services area there, we've really come to the conclusion that what is probably most likely to happen is that those team members there, we would refer individuals to make that appointment with their team. Their team would qualify the application and advise us, and then we would issue the ID accordingly. That is not an uncommon model. It is a model we have seen in other transit programs. And so we're really excited to take those next steps. We do need to circle back with community services staff to confirm that they've identified the right resources, that our application is updated correctly, et cetera. Our goal is to really roll that out by July 1. All three of those are things that we're really doing with the ID itself, the reduced fare ID. The good news is we don't have to have a new fare box system to make those changes. It's more about educating the public and then educating our staff. So those are the steps that we're taking now. So that is what we did instead of going free fare a couple months ago. I wanted to obviously answer any questions you have, reconsider this in any way that you want. I did put in the staff report that really where we are at right now with funding, I don't think we're ready to recommend we change the strategy on free fare. We did not account for the loss of fare revenues in the increased tax funding with the objective of increasing service with funding before we looked at going to fare free. I would also just add that under the current political environment, I don't know that going fare free will be favorable for some of our federal funding sources. We actually, at a conference earlier this year, spoke with an individual that has a system that's been fare free since 2013, and they are looking at rolling that back because they're actually concerned that being fare free will create will unfortunately be negative adversely impact their ability to be competitive for federal funding. Apportioned funds, that's a different story, but when you talk about the competitive funding for especially our capital projects, there has been some messaging about it being important that users are paying a fee. So with that, I really, Chair Vasquez, would like to turn it back to you and the board members. My objective was to bring you an update, kind of remind us all where we were at with this, and make a recommendation that we don't change strategy at this point in time. But I'd be happy to discuss it further, answer any questions, and of course, we can define a timeline for when do we visit this again.
Okay, we do have a hand raised, Director Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Heather, you mentioned the amount of fares that are reflected in the budget. Can you repeat that again, and also share what that figure is based on the entire budget of all revenue sources?
Sure, and we're going to go over revenues in May, so please forgive me if I'm not 100% accurate with where we're looking for 2026. But roughly 800,000 is our last year of fare collection was roughly $800,000. I don't have the figure of where we're at this fiscal year. And when I say fares of 800,000, I am talking about the cash we collect on vehicle from passengers and what we collect in our office for past sales, whether it's agency agreements or from individual users. I am not including in any of those figures the agreement that we have with Northern Arizona University that is in lieu of fares for Route 10. That is a separate item as bulleted in the staff report.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, are there any other questions or comments by board members?
I have a comment. Chair
Yes.
Veskey. Sorry, I
Richard,
was trying to find raise my hand and I exited out of the meeting for a minute. I just wanted to make a comment, for the same reasons we did not add free fare to the tax question. I think it would be, obviously we're going to discuss this down the road, but I think it's going to be problematic for us to consider a completely free fare system because I think some taxpayers might feel like they were duped in voting for something to pay for something else that they weren't aware of. So I just want to throw caution to that I like having the reduced fare for military and veterans and low-income people. And I think that any person that is applying for services or on any type of housing waiting list, I think there's a lot of different avenues that can identify a person of lower income, and they can give them some either they issue them the discount fare cards or give them some type of identification card where they can come in and turn it in for reduced fare. And I think that should be fairly easy to identify, but just to make it a blanket free fare, I think will be problematic for us anytime in the future, especially with our new tax that's going into effect pretty soon.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions? Director Sue?
Thank you. So I'm in line with the recommendation. I do want to make sure that this is a conversation that we continue to have, whether it's just checking in, seeing how the board is feeling, if we want to go further with it or not. I just don't want it to fall off and not be part of a discussion in the future. But for now, I'm definitely in line with the recommendation.
Thank you. May I make a suggestion that we have been trying to bring back a mid-year discussion where we talk about where we're at financially. So a projection, if you will. If we brought that is now the time to consider free fare as part of that, where are we at financially? And it's a once a year conversation for now. Is that adequate, or are you looking for it more frequently than that?
I think for right now, that's adequate, Heather. That makes sense to me. Yeah.
When would that conversation happen?
So generally, it's going to be happening in May annually when we bring forward the financial projection as part of the last budget discussion. For now, that to me makes sense to align it in that way. I think my one concern is if we're doing it that late in the budget process, it also doesn't offer us the opportunity to do anything in the future budget year. We would be a year out from the future budget year, if you will. So let me talk to staff and bring back a recommendation on the timing of that conversation. Maybe we align it with the financial projections that we bring at year end instead of the financial projections that we bring during the budget process, because then we could receive direction to include a consideration in budget. So, but I will, at minimum, we will bring it once a year, and I will confirm for you at a future meeting what we think is the best timing for that conversation for your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you. On that note, I would like to see those projections when we're sooner rather than later when we're making these budgetary decisions. I mean, for me, it's more of confirming why we can't go down that route at this time. But I think it's helpful to understand how that impacts, because as we're getting questions, people are really pushing for free fare. And we have to be able to push back budgetarily and demonstrate why we can't go that route, even if we want to go that route, and that we're still open to those conversations. But, you know, as we've seen with different community groups, once they understand the situation, then it makes sense for them. But until we lay out that budgetary constraint for them, then it's too hard for them to get wrap around their head that we're not just avoiding it, but that we just physically can't do it or financially can't do it.
Great.
So,
Yeah, we can definitely do that. And if I may, I'd like to share with you, and I know Chair Vasquez, you were at that meeting as well, but I feel like the board as a whole would appreciate knowing that, you know, you took a public comment from a group of Northern Arizona University students. And I know Director Mayer has met with that exact same group of students. But we did have a meeting to talk about why not free fare, why transit is not free at this point in our community. And it really felt like it was a great dialogue with them. And to the point that you just made, Chair Vasquez, I do think that when we're able to lay out all of the reasoning and the financial impacts and the data that we use to make our decisions, I think it builds rapport and respect with the groups that we're talking with and that understanding that you just mentioned. So we'll think about the timing of ensuring we're bringing information back to you so that you're making decisions based on financial information and that's timely to other decision points.
great, thank you. Are there any other comments, board members, before we go on to the public comment that was emailed to the board? Okay, please read the public comment.
Okay, thank you. So this public comment came in from David Spence on March 15th. It was originally on the agenda for March 19th and was tabled to today. I am commenting on the agenda item free fare transit. I strongly urge Mountain Lion to adopt the free ride system. Your corporate and government sponsors could still contribute money to your overall budget, but individuals could ride for free. Better equity for low-income persons. More ridership by all income groups. Less driver hassles with collecting fares. Reduce stop time while passengers get out their money or bus pass. Less staff time spent accounting for fare receipts. Thanks for considering my input. David Spence, Flagstaff City Council person. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll put that in the record for the conversation. Are there any other comments or discussions on this item? All right, well, thank you. Look forward to those projections when we get there.
Yes, thank you.
All right, now it's time for progress reports. Number 12, Mountain Express Performance Report, Busy Collins.
So the progress reports don't actually have presentations, so they are in the packets. If you would like us to agendize them, we can do that in the future. Otherwise, we can skip right down to current events. I think there's a couple there that I can share with you before we move off of progress reports with the rest of the agenda.
Sure. Are there any questions about progress reports before we move on to item 14? All right, in that case, please share with us the summary of current events.
All right, so I think we just have a couple current events to share with you. Ridership is growing. As I just mentioned, we are seeing more fares, and that's because ridership continues to grow. We did go back to full service on Route 10 only in January of this year and are already seeing increases in ridership. So while month over month, you can see some changes there. We're averaging about 15% growth just in the last 3 months alone. So definitely on track to exceed where our ridership was last year and to meet those projection goals that Busy shared last month in her key performance indicator report. Next slide. Jackie and I participated in a fly-in in early March. We walked a lot all over the Hill, visiting with different groups and our legislators there. We actually visited 9 different offices. That for the first time, we were able to have a meeting with DOT staff as well as Federal Transit Administration staff. Normally, we do not have the opportunity to meet with those teams while we were there, but we appreciated that opportunity. The key topics of our discussion has been and continues to be updates on projects that our officials have helped support for bringing funding to Flagstaff. We do have our economic impact of transit report that we share with them. We'll continue sharing that. We're actually looking at doing that report on some of the projects as well. And then we have joined with many other transit agencies starting to talk about reauthorization and what we would consider the priorities for reauthorization. Of course, the objective is to keep our funding, at least a portion funding, whole, and to start to seek some regulatory changes that would make us more efficient and relieve some administrative burden, which of course has some financial relief as well. Next slide. We celebrated our employees in March. So the week from the dates of March 16th to 18th, our transit application, our trip planning tool actually had a Rate My Ride option. And in that option, they encouraged riders to send words of appreciation for our drivers. And I just wanted to share with you, while we celebrated our staff here, we also had some celebrations from our riding public. 40 different riders commented, and you can see the results there. We have shared these with our team, and the last one is right. Our drivers are the best, and we were very grateful to be able to celebrate them as well as all of our other employees. Transit Worker Appreciation Day started out by the TriMet system as an objective in their system and is now celebrated almost nationwide. And they changed it from Transit Operator to Transit Worker Day several years ago. And it is the day that we set aside to celebrate all of our staff here at Mountain Line as well. Next slide. National Transit Database, I just wanted to share and congratulate Busy and our team. We have finally received confirmation that our report has been accepted. The National Transit Database report is a collection of data points that the Federal Transit Administration requires us to submit annually. It's actually due by the end of October, and then they spend the next 6 to 9 months analyzing and asking questions on the data. It can be quite burdensome. Some of the questions are not always easy to answer, and Busy did a fantastic job leading the conversation. And I'm happy to report that the NTD report is now complete and it was filed on time. Next slide. We continue to use TripQuest within our group here at Mountain Line. So one of the objectives is to get our staff out on the buses. It encourages interactions with our staff every day who aren't in the office, but it also gives us an opportunity to see what riding the bus is like for our customers. So this is just an annual report. You can see here, John Mathis has 27 trips since the inception of this. He's our highest rider internally. But I just wanted to share this with you. This is feedback that we are all looking at on a quarterly basis. Our entire leadership team is supposed to use this tool and ride a bus at least once quarterly, and the GM team once monthly. So it's a great way for us to act like customers and see things and address conditions before they become a concern to our riders. Next slide. And just a couple updated DCC photos, and these are even out of date at this point. We had the Arizona Transit Association conference was held in Flagstaff this week. So several of us participated in a tour on Monday where we went back through the building, and it is starting to look almost move-in ready. We actually saw carpet on the second floor. You can see in the top left corner some of the exposed concrete that is a feature on the first floor of the building. And we're just very excited to be getting this close. If you have not driven by recently, you can now see the parking spaces that were designed and put in front of the building, and our very large concrete apron in front of the building, which improves pedestrian and bike access to the facility and around the facility. Recently, we presented on this project, and the contractor called the the area in front of the building, Flagstaff's front porch, and I'm going to figure out a way to market that because I thought it was fantastic. So very excited to see us move into this building and just wanted to share a few photos with you. I think there may be a couple more on the next slide. Oh, just one in the snow. They have a really great marketing person that inundates us with photos. We're going to turn them into coffee books in the building so that we never lose this history of how we got into this facility. Next slide. And this is just a couple of views of the art. Actually, if you go by today, you may see the trees going up. When we were there on Monday, they were pouring some of the concrete that will go around those trees. But mostly on the bottom there, you can see the different elements of the trees, from the trees themselves to the pine needles. And on the far right-hand side is the bark that was made out of pieces of metal that are then wrapped around those trees. It's very cool. I think, Rhonda, if you click again, this is an image of the sundial that will be there. And this is some of the history of the area and Flagstaff engraved in these tree rings that will be the center of that art piece. Next slide. We have new staff and new positions I wanted to share with you. We recently welcomed 3 new drivers plus 3 new trainees. And then we've also celebrated the promotion of several staff. So on the left-hand side is Phil Parrish, who has been promoted from operator to transit supervisor. In the middle is Don Palmer, recently promoted from transportation supervisor to transportation superintendent. So he's now leading a lot of our operational teams. And on the right-hand side, James Olson, who regularly can be seen helping facilitate our meetings, was promoted from IT technician to IT specialist. Next slide. And these are the last of our April anniversaries. So on the left, you have Ken Lisinski celebrating, I can't read my screen. I think it says 15 years. Hold on. 11 years. I made it bigger. My eyes are working now. So Ken Lisinski celebrating 11 years. Ken has served in a lot of roles at Mountain Line. He has been a driver, he's been a trainer, and he currently is on our transportation supervisor group. He does a lot of our driver bid and scheduling work. So grateful for all of his years of service. In the middle, Jeff Beal, transit operator, celebrating his 2nd anniversary here at Mountain Line. Jeff works on both sides of our operations. So he's fixed route operator and a paratransit operator, and he just is phenomenally great with our customers, incredibly patient. Jordan Goodwin on the far right-hand side is celebrating his 2nd year here at Mountain Line as maintenance assistant. And we're so grateful for all he does to support our maintenance team. Next slide. I think that's the last one. And that's everything that I had for current events. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Are there any questions on these current events? All right, thank you for the report.
Thank you.
Next up, can I get a motion to go into executive session?
I move that we go into executive session.
Okay, we have a motion by Director Sweet. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Director Williams. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. We are going into executive session.
If in the Vera room you're muted, we cannot hear you. Rhonda, you're still muted.
Unmute.
There you are.
All right, so we're waiting for Director Matthews. Do we need to wait for her to close out meeting? Can I just
It-
go?
It looks like she may have logged off instead of just leaving the room. So you still have quorum to complete the meeting adjournment.
Okay, so in that case, the board and TAC joint meeting will be held on Wednesday, May 21st, 2025. In person at the Aquaplex in the community room at 10 a.m. Lunch will be offered. May agenda items may be included, but not limited to the budget presentation, financial plan projections, changes to federal funding assumptions, compensation study, organizational structure review, legislative priorities, zero emission transition plan update, downtown connection center, civic space, Casper maintenance facility, transit access improvements, first mile, last mile, performance scorecard review, goal setting, review, strategic plan and work plan, strategic plan, Prop 488, triennial review closeout, workforce utilization report, and delegation of authority updates. And then the next actual board meeting will be held June 18th, and it'll be a hybrid meeting. And with that, are there any other questions? Hope I went
Yes.
fast enough.
Just to note that June meeting is in our new building and we would love to see you all there.
Right. So June meeting in our new building, so please make it. And with that said, I adjourn the meeting at